This is your weekly Bitcoin video analysis for the week of Monday, April 27th, 2026. I'm going to be showing the same chart throughout, the same weekly chart. This one spans almost 10 years. And you can see this long-term channel top. We closed above November of 24. We ultimately reached this full wave count, taking the 21 high, subtracting from it the 22 low, and just sort of flipping that on its head. Where this market can reach balance, equilibrium, and therefore a ceiling of resistance at 122,433. We've obviously fallen away from there. We also, on the way down, back in basically January, February of this year, closed back below this significant channel that is 88,104. But if you've been following the video series for some time, for the last few months, we know we also closed below a more significant 3-year channel bottom that is at 92,452. And I consider this a ceiling of resistance that, if tested over the coming weeks and months, can contain buying on a quarterly basis. Possibly in the later year, we could fall away from here. If we close above 92,452, we're probably just 3 to 5 months away from retesting 122,433. There is reason to consider 92,452 as a 2 to 3 month target right now. This following the settlement a couple of weeks ago above this series of highs and lows. It goes back to March of 24 and then again April of 25, 74,412. So if you're long based on this, I have no problem with that. I think over the next 2 to 3 months, we can push into the low to mid 90,000 region. It actually is already at 96,935 by late June. On the way up, if you've yet to go long, you could consider buying a settlement above, and this is zooming in, above this 3-month channel top at 79,585. So closing above 79,585, there's not much left to get in the way of what could be a 3 to 5 week blast into the 92,452 area, where once again we can top out on a quarterly basis, possibly in a later year. And if settled above, should once again yield 122,433 within another 3 to 5 months. Now, we also, besides this, I'm kind of going in reverse order here because of the recent buy signal. But if we do close back below 73,791 this week, I see that as a good high through May. By the end of May, we could unwind all the way back into the low 60,000 area. Now, this was 61,097, once considered an objective, a 2 to 3 month objective, as you may recall, with the settlement below the 92,452 formation. And in the scope of about 2 weeks, we came within probably 90% of reaching that goal before springing back now. But 61,097, if tested over the next month, 2 or 3, can absorb selling not only for the rest of the year, but possibly the rest of the decade, because this structure is based on a series of highs that spans all the way back to 2017, almost a decade long. This 61,097 is our base of long-term support that you can buy into aggressively through the rest of the year, even through the rest of the decade. We can come off of this nicely. But if we were in the coming months to close below 61,097, and I would also, by the way, want to add this rising 2/3 speed line projected off the 22 low at 59,644, closing below this area does indicate longer-term bearish continuation over the following full year or sooner into the mid to upper 10,000 area. 15,484 to 19,285, I think, would become a clear objective within a full year or less of closing below 59,644. But until then, this is a solid zone to buy into. If you are invested in Bitcoin longer term, know that holding above the 59,600, 61,000 area maintains an upward dynamic as we continue through the rest of the decade. Once again, 92,452 is actually in reach over the next 2 or 3 months above 74,412, this platform. And one of the things that would provide our next go with buy signal, as I've already mentioned, would be a settlement above 79,585. But if you're kind of a near-term swing trader in Bitcoin, you can sell 79,585 and buy 74,412 as a 3 to 5 day swing trade all week long. But if we close above 79,585, it is go long and stay long through the month of May, expecting 92,452. Closing once again back below 73,791 will keep the low 60,000 area in reach, as I've already said, where we could bottom out not only through the rest of the year, but perhaps the rest of the decade. I'm going to leave it at that for this week's Bitcoin video analysis. You have a great week.